Laura Heywood.
Hi.
What are the assets that you look for, maybe from the receiving end?
I want to know that the people that I'm watching in the shows, the people I'm connecting with on stage and on social media, are human beings just like me, because that makes me feel like the show doesn't belong to these rich and famous people. It belongs to me too. And that makes me want to share it organically, the same way I would share something that I myself am working on.
Laura, I'm curious really about community building.
I actually also have a little magic formula that I call social media cares, which is cares, CARES, is like the 5 qualities I think it takes to make good social media and just marketing in general, whether it's for an individual, whether it's for a show, or whether it's for a larger brand or community. And that is, you want to be consistent, articulate, relatable, entertaining, and sincere. And I have a whole PowerPoint on this if anybody would like to see it at some point. But consistency to me is the most important thing. And it's not about being consistent in terms of post a certain number of times a day or a certain number of times a week. What it is, really is about being consistent with your messaging, and messaging is another one of those buzzwords that kind of, but Stephen, you talked about having an identity for your show, knowing how to describe it, sort of an elevator pitch. And to me, I think of that as the description in the 2 lines you have at the top of your Instagram account. Who are you? What is this show? And every time you create a post, or every time you are going out to, let's say, find a guest speaker, or to host an event where your cast is going to be, you refer back to that identity and you say, does this fit? And if it doesn't fit, no matter how clever you think the content is, if it's not consistent with the identity, with the expectation you've set for who you as an individual, you as a show, you as a community are going to be, then you have to scrap it. It all comes down to letting people know who you are and then delivering on that expectation. I am a huge proponent of non-New York specific marketing because, again, the fans are going to be your marketing army. And the closer they feel to the show, the more likely they are to promote it by means of just sharing the show's posts and making their own posts about the show. And while those kids who are on social media, quote unquote kids, may not be the ones buying the tickets, their next door neighbors, their parents, their cousins who do live in New York are going to see, let's say, there's some kids in Ohio who dress up like Glinda and Elphaba every Halloween. Their next door neighbors go on a trip to New York. They see the billboard for Wicked and they go, oh, that's Jesse's show. We should go see that, And it's this, what's the rule? You probably know this, Stephen. You have to see a logo 7 times before it gets into your consciousness. And every time a fan posts on social media, their entire network racks up one of those views.
Are there any quarantine specific recommendations you would make for people in those very first steps?
I have a couple answers, but I think they fit together. One is, I'm so excited for an era in which there is no rule book, because the biggest mistake that I see is people trying to do what other people have successfully done instead of inventing their own ways of doing things. Everybody wants to know, well, what did Hamilton do? And so we are going to do that. We're going to start having a show out on the street, see people come. Well, maybe that'll work, but maybe it only worked because it was specific to Hamilton. And
so smart.
Again, I'm always going to come back to authenticity. And the best way to be authentic is to have no rule book, because if you have to invent it, it is automatically going to be yours. And that means that people are going to respond to it because they're sensing the fact that you are passionate about it. Certainly, I think that making content and filming it is an obvious solution to not having anywhere else to do your stuff. And the biggest piece of advice I have in terms of that is, don't wait for the situation to be perfect. Make something with the resources and people at your disposal. Don't wait till you have millions of dollars worth of camera equipment. Don't wait until you have Al Pacino. Don't wait until you have, a Steven Spielberg or, Lynn Nottage or any of these superstars. Like, write something and film it and edit it and make it. And it's
do what you can do.
It's going to be new. And then my other favorite piece of advice, favorite is, there's a difference between being new at something and being bad at something. And in a vacuum, those two things might look the same, but they're not the same. And if you're never new at something, you will never get good at it. So just start making something, whatever that means, and watch it and see what you want to do different the next time, and then make something else. What my last piece of advice is, you're always going to know the audience you have better than the audience you want. So make sure that you are giving the people who already subscribe to your content stuff that they love. Because if you know because if you give them what they like, they're more likely to share it. Don't try to use ESP to guess what some stranger wants. Super serve the people who have already opted in. And that's the most jargony thing I've ever said.
I love every drop of it.
I love that.
This has been an amazing panel. Thank you all so much for your time. Laura, where can people find you?
Broadway Girl NYC on everything.
Thank you all. Thanks so much. That was a great panel. I knew you'd be awesome.